We can use a number line to represent adding and subtracting integers. Before we begin, let's imagine a person walking on a number line. This person can face forwards or backwards. When facing and walking forward, he will be moving right on the number line or towards the positive numbers. When facing forwards, but now walking backwards, he will be moving left on the number line or towards the negative numbers. Likewise, when facing backwards but moving forwards, walking forwards, he is moving in the negative direction as shown with him turning around here. However, when he is facing backwards and walking backwards, he is now moving right on the number line or towards the positive numbers. Now that we have some ideas about moving along the number line, let's check out a few examples so that we can make sense of these operations. First, we want to use the number line to represent addition and subtraction of positive numbers, 5 plus 3 and 5 minus 3. Here we can put the little bear at 5 and add 3. I'm going to take my little bear here, put him at 5. If I move 3 steps, 1, 2, 3, I am now at positive 8. We can then subtract. Again, if we want to model the subtraction, put our little bear at 5 and then subtract 1, 2, 3 by walking backwards and end up at positive 2. The number line also shows us that we can think about subtraction as the distance between numbers on the number line. I'm going to move the little bear down here. But if we want to think about 5 minus 3, or the distance or difference between 5 and 3, we can see the distance is 2. Next, we can think about adding and subtracting a negative number. Again, we want to start at positive 5, and if we were adding, we are face forward, but if we want to add a negative 3, we can walk backwards 3 steps. 5 plus 1, 2, 3 plus a negative 3. If we want to do 5 minus a negative 3 now, we would want to start at 5, and if we're subtracting, we want to face backwards and now walk backwards 1, 2, 3 to end up at again positive 8. This notion of looking forwards or looking backwards based on the operation and then walking forwards or walking backwards based on whether the number is positive or negative helps to show how a negative minus a negative can lead to a positive number. So let's return to our previous example of 5 minus 3. Using that idea, our little bear should start at 5, but now face the negatives for subtraction. We know we're subtracting 3, so we should face backwards and then walk forward 1, 2, 3 steps because the subtrahend is positive. So now we are going to do 2 more examples. The idea of 3 minus 5, so positive 3. We want to subtract a positive 5. So we'll take our little bear. He's subtracting, so we are going to have him look towards the negatives, but now walk forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because 5, the subtrahend is positive, so that's why he's walking forward. Now, we could do the same thing, but starting with negative 3. and subtracting a positive 5. So here we'll start at negative 3. We want to subtract. So we will be looking towards the negative direction, but now we will walk forward 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This again shows how 3 minus 5 is negative 2, but negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. We moved more towards the negatives. And now I would like to return to the idea that subtraction is the distance or difference between numbers on a number line. If, again, we look at the distance between 3 and 5, we saw that from before, that was 2. But now the distance between negative 3, change my color, negative 3 and positive 5, we can see that's 8. Now this notion of distance or difference, though, gives us the absolute value. We don't necessarily know if it's of negative 2, positive 2, or negative 8, positive 8. That's where that notion of facing either towards the positives or towards the negatives on the number line and then moving forwards or moving backwards will give us that distinct answer. So I would like to review that notion of facing on the number line and walking forwards or backwards. 3 minus 5 would lead us to start at positive 3. If we're subtracting, we want to face towards the negatives, and now we want to walk forward 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where we land on negative 2 tells us the distance or the difference between 3 minus 5. Likewise, if we were to do negative 3 minus 5, again, we're still in the minus, so we're facing the negatives. Now we're going to move forward because the subtrahend is positive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get negative 3 minus 5 is our negative 8 here. So let's take one last example of now a negative 5 minus a negative 3, and then negative 3 minus a negative 5. So negative 5, we'll start at negative 5. Minus means we face towards the negatives. But now a negative 3 means we're going to move backwards 3. 1, 2, 3. So again, this notion that subtracting a negative brings us more towards the positive. We can see that by facing backwards, but now walking backwards brings us towards the positive. And same thing, if we start at negative 3, and now we want to subtract, so again, we're facing to the right, or sorry, to the left or towards the negatives, and now we're going to walk backwards 5, negative 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we end up at positive 2. This is why negative 3 minus a negative 5 is the same thing as negative 3 plus 5, which is the same thing as 5 minus 3, all equal to 2.